All right, I'm being told we are live. Hello, everyone. This is a packed room. I love seeing this. Hello, everyone. I am Duango AC, keeper of our friend TASBot here. With me today is TyKevin83.
Hi, I'm TyKevin83.
Also with us is Taters.
I'm Taters. Thank you.
And this is TASBot.
Yes.
There we go.
I don't know if there's any Taylor Swift fans in here, but I really liked her Eras tour, and I was inspired to do something similar with TASBot, because quite honestly, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been doing this for 10 years. So let's go through a trip through memory lane. Now, this is going to be a different presentation than the presentation I prepared for you, because it turns out there's no internet access here. So on the fly, I'm doing everything with what I have available on cached offline copies and minimal data. But now, here's what's going to happen. So first of all, if this is your first time hearing about TASBot, there's a lot to explain in a very short amount of time because we've only got 45 minutes and I've got like 9 runs to show you. So as quickly as I can get through it, let me tell you what TASBot is, what it came from, and what TAS Videos is as well. So in the beginning, there were games, and then people figured out you could play games fast, and then that became a thing called speedrunning. And then people decided to put video games inside of emulators and did speedrunning with tools to assist them in doing it faster, which is tool-assisted speedruns. TyKevin83 and I are on the staff of TAS Videos. We are both on the ambassador team, which I lead up. And it is a wonderful site. If you go to tasvideos.org, you'll find plenty of tool-assisted speedruns. We're video game speedruns with no human limitations, no skill limitations, no luck limitations, no issues with forgetting anything are ever part of the runs because you can use tools to do things perfectly. What we do with TASBot is a little bit crazy. We take tool-assisted speedruns and put them on the real consoles. So TASBot here is not holding any replay devices, but oftentimes we'll take him to a charity event like MAGFest, running right here at MAGFest. If you head on over later on today or tomorrow in particular, you'll have one person after another running games as fast as they can, while people are donating for various incentives, all benefiting Child's Play. We take TASBot to these types of charity events, connect him to a real video game console, and let him play as fast as the game console and game code allows. So it's several levels of digression. Like if you were to go to Twitch, the most common thing you're going to find on there is video gaming, because that's what it was organized around. But there's a subset of people on Twitch that do speedrunning. And then there's a subset of people who do tool-assisted speedruns. And then there's this tiny little portion of people who are doing tool-assisted speedruns on real hardware. And that's what TASBot does. So that's your quick introduction to TASBot. Now, I, as a representative of the TAS Videos site, wanted to do something at a speedrunning event called Awesome Games Done Quick, which by some fate is running right now simultaneously with MAGFest. Huge credit to all the folks that came from AGDQ 2024 to make it to MAGFest 2024, including Stump right here in the front row. So right now, actively, as we speak, they are raising money for an organization called the Prevent Cancer Foundation. And in 2013, I sat down knowing that AGDQ was coming up, AGDQ 2014 was coming up, and I really wanted to do something for the event. My grandmother had passed from cancer. I had a friend at that time that was actively dealing with a cancer diagnosis, and I wanted to do something to help charity. I had been part of the TAS Videos site for a considerable amount of time at that point, and I proposed the idea of doing tool-assisted speedruns at AGDQ. And initially the response was not great. There were a couple of folks from a website at the time called Speed Demos Archive that Games Done Quick came out of that weren't too thrilled with the idea of doing that. Nevertheless, admins gave us a chance, and we were able to do our very first run of Gradius. If you want to hear the backstory of how that happened, head on over to, this is my plug, head on over to youtube.com/DuangoAC. Anyway, I've done a TASBot Revisited where I go back and unpack the very first run we did, which, no surprise, desynced. What I'm going to be talking to you about today, though, is another run from that same event. And to do that, I'm going to be sourcing from the TASBot wiki, which we've been working on using as a way to provide attribution for all of the volunteers that have helped out. Over the course of the last 10 years, we've been able to show so many amazing runs at various charity events. Here in the United States with AGDQ, RPG Limit Break, MAGFest, Calathon, MAGWest stuff, our own task-giving events, and more. There's been so many events we've done. We've done European Speedrunning Assembly. I did GeekPwn in Asia. It's just been a wild ride. But there are so many people who contributed to make those events happen. And today we're going to walk through and talk about the people that made these runs possible and the amazing things they were able to do. I'm your presenter, but in many of these cases, actually almost all of them, I'm not the one that created the content that I was able to show. Usually, a TAS author laboriously made a tool-assisted speedrun, usually in an emulator in most cases, over the course of often thousands of re-records, quite a considerable amount of effort.
Or 300,000 or more.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes there's at least one with 500,000.
Actually, the yellow one I did was 300,000 frames at the end. So the number of re-record, if you're like checking every frame, every input, the number of re-records is easily in the millions or tens of millions.
And when we say a re-record, we mean you're using tools to create a speedrun. That means that you're putting the game in an emulator, you're getting to a certain point where you want to try to do something. You pause the emulator, you take a save state, and you advance usually in slow motion or even one frame at a time, and you try something, like jumping over a Goomba. Maybe you try jumping straight over. Okay, it took you this long, so many odd frames, so many odd redraws of the display. Go back, load your save state, just like loading a save in a game. Try again, but this time try bouncing off of the Goomba. Hey, maybe that's a little bit faster. Well, okay, maybe we can do this even quicker. So the next time through, you clip Mario's head into the right side of a coin box, which then tries to eject you to the left, which gives you a tiny speed boost. Could you do that every time as a human? Probably not. But with tools, you can do input perfectly, and you might realize that's the fastest way to get through. So you just keep repeating the process all the way to the end of the game until you have a playthrough that's as fast as the game can possibly handle, and sometimes hardware as well. So we're never cheating. We're only playing the game exactly as it was written. We're just taking advantage of various exploits. You know, glitches. So what I want to show you today, finally getting to the actual demonstration. At Awesome Games Done Quick 2014, we did do Gradius that I mentioned earlier, but the run I want to talk to you about is Super Mario World Arbitrary Code Execution. This was the first time most people ever heard of arbitrary code execution. So the defining moment 10 years ago this month was Snake and Pong inside of Super Mario World. If you want to see more information about this particular run, you can head on over to tas.bot/wiki/AGDQ_2014. That's a fast way to get to it. But just go to tas.bot, https://tas.bot. You'll find us on there. You'll find the AGDQ 2014 page, and you can read up on this offline. But Snake and Pong inside of Super Mario World had never been heard of before. No one had ever thought of doing this before. And it resulted in a lot of coverage. We got covered on Ars Technica, and AGDQ 2014 was special for a number of reasons. It was the first AGDQ to raise over $1 million for charity. It was the first time a lot of people had ever been exposed to tool-assisted speedruns of this type, even being run on a real console, let alone arbitrary code execution. So this run was really, really incredible. And the people behind it that I want to talk about very briefly are Master June in particular. Let me get back up here. I went too far. Looks like
Can we just say Master June about 75 times?
We could, yeah.
He never
pretty
gets
much did
enough credit.
Micro 500 was a presenter that was there on site. We had True, who made the replay device. He made an NES SNES replay device. We also had Weatherton and the Greek Brit, who helped present that. Again, if you want to see more about that particular section, tune into my YouTube channel, and I'll be getting a video out on that hopefully in the next couple of months. But this run set the stage for what we were expected to do. And it was a very high bar. So we walked in a year later to AGDQ 2015, and people had some pretty high expectations of what we were going to do. So of course, we went overboard. We did something in Pokemon Red. And It involved Twitch, specifically Twitch chat. I hear some people giggling, so I can tell a few of you know what's about to happen. Spoiler alert, if you're listening to this talk recorded or at some future date, and you have never seen Twitch chat being driven through a Super Nintendo, you might want to pause now and just go watch this. So you'll find this under the AGDQ 2015 page on TASBot. And by the way, wiki editors, I need your help. You wouldn't believe how much more work we have to do on this. So if you know how to edit a wiki, please just join. The account is free. Help us make this better. But anyway, if you were to look at this, you'd see that this is quite a mess of a run. We started playing we started playing Pokemon Red on a Super Nintendo inside of a Super Game Boy. We started with a reset wire on the underside of the Super Nintendo's expansion port, created a save, reset the console in the middle of saving the game, or saving our character profile, after setting our rival name to a very specific name and a couple of other things. That allowed us to say that our Pokemon list was 255 Pokemon long, except there weren't that many Pokemon in the game, so it overwrote some other vital data. We then went into that save, went into our Pokemon list, swapped a couple of Pokemon, which then overwrote the item list, which then allowed us to swap items swap items around in our items inventory and throw items away to directly manipulate memory, which then allowed us to trigger a glitch that executed the items list area as code, which then allowed us to take over Pokemon Red, and then we took over the Super Game Boy, and then we took over the Super Nintendo, and then we connected the Super Nintendo to the internet, to Twitch chat, through the controller ports. And everyone's live Twitch data was coming through the controller ports. It was incredible. No one had ever seen anything like this before. So, just to say this... You can tell I'm getting excited about this just thinking about it, because who connects a 1990s era console that came out before the World Wide Web existed to the internet, and then the first thing you do with it is connect to Twitch chat? Yeah, I know. We tried to filter it as best we could to keep people from saying bad things. They still managed to sneak a couple bad words in, but it was so fun. We had "Hi, Mom" on the... I'm on TV! This was the first time that we did direct interaction with Twitch, and this is a theme that you'll hear coming up several times. But
yeah, and one thing that's particularly special about this run was, we'll see later in one of the later talks we're doing, but at the time in 2014, we had not accurately emulated Pokemon Red yet, or any of those early Pokemon games, because their RNG is so weird and precise. So in order to do that bootstrapping, to have taken over the Game Boy and the Super Game Boy in the first place, we were doing things that were not the usual process of write your thing in your emulator and just export it. We had to do things very manually and try over and over again until it was synced up properly.
I cannot emphasize enough exactly how crazy complicated this was. And if you'd like to know exactly how this happened, am I allowed to swear? I have one cuss word I have to say. Am I allowed to swear? Someone from the back tell me. Yes? Okay. Thanks to some of the people who helped with this, including P4+2, Ilari, graphics from Ange Albertini, we were able to make a journal entry for a hacker journal named, I'm not kidding, this is the name of the journal. The name of the journal is Proof of Concept or Get the Fuck Out.
Go ahead and clip that just so we can share it with everybody. Dwango swearing.
I know, right? So, POC GTFO issue 0x10, hexadecimal, go with it. Page 6, we did Pokemon Plays Twitch. If you look it up, it will absolutely go into more detail than you could ever think possible about exactly which swaps we did. It's worth checking out. Some of the other people that were involved in that, P4+2, Master June, again, AIS523, True for the replay device, the Axeman for chat integration, and TWM for chat filtering. It was an incredible, incredible presentation. And this really got a lot of attention. We went from doing small things to huge things. And when we did that, we weren't entirely sure how we were going to top it. And this is going to become a theme. So fast forward to, let's see, do I want to get into this one? Yes, Brain Age.
I don't know, maybe you should skip it.
Maybe I should skip it?
Yeah, maybe it's not the right one.
Awesome Games Done Quick, 2016, a year later. Before I say anything else, I have to credit one person, Micro 500. Micro 500 put an immense amount of heart and soul and energy into making Brain Age his plaything. So, in 2016, the memes were fresh. They are no longer fresh. If you go back and watch this run, it's a lot of very early-ish Twitch memes and Franker Z and some other things. But let me tell you about this run. We took a real... I can't believe we did this. We took a real Nintendo DS, modified it so that we could have TASBot poke the screen in just the right spots, set the date to just the right time so we had a set seed, and then played the game Brain Age, which presents you with math problems. 2 plus 2 equals a dog's head. And then it says, oh, yeah, that's 4. That works. That checks out. And then we started answering with complicated equations that still were correct, and then all kinds of other things like live Twitch chat again. It became a complete meme fest. We would draw these really intricate drawings that were done by a huge number of volunteers in the TAS Videos community, with Micro 500 providing animations of figuring out how to sketch things out. If you go back and watch that run, which is linked from, again, TAS.bot, this is on the AGDQ 2016 page, if you go watch that run, you will discover that there is one section where there is a Rickroll, and if you turn the volume way up, you can hear it's actually doing the pen scratch of... I don't think anybody knows that that's in there because it wasn't obvious when you watched it the first time. I'm not going to talk about this too much longer, but this really put Games Done Quick and TASBot on the map. As of right now, this has more views, millions of views on AGDQ's channel than any other video on there. And a lot of people that are in this room know about TASBot because of that run. And yet it was kind of bittersweet for me. Micro 500 put so much heart into that run that it did burn him out. And there's just no other way to put it. I kind of regret that we didn't have more support at the time. I was not necessarily as experienced of a leader at that time, and I didn't know what I needed to do at that time. I didn't realize exactly how much damage Micro 500 had done to himself trying to get all of that done, because 100 different pieces of art, all animated, was an enormous amount of work. And I definitely have a little bit of a bittersweet feeling about this. But nevertheless, we didn't stop there. We moved on to Summer Games Done Quick.
Before we move on, Dwango, am I correct in remembering that some of the way that those Brain Age runs worked was that you were able to draw in off-screen areas of the DS? Like
yes.
The template, like when you're drawing with your pen on a DS, there's a certain area that you can actually touch with your pen. There's areas that you're not actually able to touch because the screen is larger than that. So we were tapping into those areas as part of our trickery to get it to say, oh yes, that Franker Z actually is 4.
So it looks like in my, there was a lot of trickery in Brain Age. Moving on to the next run I want to talk to you about, it looks like in the process of trying to prepare everything in the wiki, I must have done something wrong, or somebody did. So someone wants to fix the wiki for me. Thank you.
You can blame me, it's fine.
Right.
It's my fault, always my fault.
Always blame taters. A lot of these runs were done before quite a number of people who are now in the TASBot community were even around. And this is another one of those runs. It's Super Mario Bros. 1, Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels, and Super Mario Bros. 3, Mario. I can pronounce Mario, I promise. All 4 games at the same time with exactly the same sequence of button presses completing all 4 games. It's so hard to comprehend because it's sensory overload. And it was really hard to express how crazy this particular run is. I don't think we could reproduce it today if we wanted to. Micro 500, again, knocked it out of the park. He was not there in person, but he created the TASLink board, which had 4 separate ports that could go to 4 separate consoles and start 4 separate tool-assisted speedruns on 4 different games simultaneously. And we did. And it worked. One of them on a Famicom disk system for Lost Levels. This one is a turning point in our technological prowess because we had gone from rather, I don't want to insult True's NES, SNES replay device, but it was prone to consistency challenges. It was unreliable. We did make further improvements with True's hardware, and True made more devices as well, but the TASLink device was really purpose-built to be hardened to be on the road at an event like this. And this run really made that device shine. Again, Micro 500 did a fantastic job. This was Me Got This and AGDQ. I have no idea how to pronounce that, helping with the presentation. There were... Okay, I'm going to reload the page. Let's see if it magically is fixed. Oh! Who did that? Thank you so much.
So we should throw a shout out there to the Moss 2313?
The Moss 3212.
3212, who just alerted us live that they fixed that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So now we have a little bit more data. This run, if I were to click on this, it would go to the run author. The run author is I kept getting this wrong when I presented this all the way back in 2016.
Is it Agwawaf?
Agwawaf. I kept trying to say agua waffle. I'm like, what is it? Water waffles? Anyway, agua waffle. Anyway, this was all done by that one TAS author, but there were a lot of other people, as is usually the case, that helped present, including Migats This and AGDQ, who were there with me in person.
Migats This actually also did a speedrun at a GDQ of playing both Pokemon Red and Pokemon Yellow at the same time, which you would think is easy because they have a lot of the same story, but they have different game engines because Yellow is designed for color, so every button presses off by like 5 frames in the other engine, so it becomes a complete mess.
All right, I got to keep going because I might not have enough time. Moving on, AGDQ 2017. This needs very heavily fleshed out. This is basically a stubbed page at the moment. But AGDQ 2017 was the moment that we went too far. So just to walk you through what we did. We started playing Super Mario Bros. 3 and literally wrote shellcode. And when I say shellcode, for those who are of a particular vernacular, that means something specific. It means writing, well, code in a shell. We used shells to write code. So we physically relocated where Koopa shells were on the screen so that their X and Y coordinates, when organized in the right order, became executable assembly code, and then we ran it. Because why not? We then, what did we do with that payload? Was that the TASBot OS? No, that just played some music. That's what it was. We played some music for that one. Then we switched over to Mega Man on another NES. So we left the other one sitting there. We went to Mega Man, and we started playing through with Glitch Man, and I think it was, and glitched really hard, found an arbitrary code execution, and started loading TASBot OS, which was very Flying Toasters reminiscent. We set that aside. We started playing Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Had a couple Chaos Emeralds, which was what we called rupees that appeared when we weren't expecting it. Caused a couple of random things to happen. Inevitably, we glitched a bottle through a doorway and took over the entire game, at which point everyone got very confused because what they saw and heard was Super Mario 64. And then when that got done playing, we started playing Portal. And then we placed a Skype call. Everyone was so confused at what they were looking at that some people just tuned out or thought we were faking everything. But we did not. We actually played all of those things on those 3 consoles. What we had done was kind of disingenuous in one sense. With a lot of help, specifically from Micro 500, P4 Plus 2, Tampa, and a host of other people behind the scenes that helped out, we made the Super Nintendo, after we got arbitrary code on it, we made it play full video at 10 frames a second, 256 colors. We made Super Mario Bros. 3 play left audio, Mega Man play right audio, or maybe the other way around, and we literally used one Super Nintendo and 2 NES consoles to play full video from any arbitrary source, including a rotating palette, and played games? It was not necessarily fair of us because we didn't explain until the very end what we had done. We came completely clean at the end of the segment, but a lot of people were just so confused and they tuned out without understanding what we had done. And to this day, this is a precious gem in the history of TASBot runs. It's the forgotten era. Like if Taylor Swift has any albums that have been, at any point that had been forgotten about, they are not forgotten now because she's enormous, but this is kind of our forgotten album, our forgotten part of history that I really want to find a way to highlight because it's just so over-the-top insane. We did so many ridiculous things for AGDQ 2017. Unfortunately, the toll that this took on my Micro 500 did result in him dropping out of helping with events, and I do regret that I made some specific missteps in preparing for AGDQ 2017. I personally had some significant growth in that year as a result of things going wrong behind the scenes. It worked, but we were still changing credits as we were walking onto the stage for reasons I won't get into here. And that was really a representation that I pushed too hard to make it too much. Like I pushed too hard for the stereo audio in particular. I never should have done that. I should have stuck with mono audio and just called it good enough. But I didn't. And I have a lot of regrets. If there's one event that I have regrets over, it's probably AGDQ 2017. Having said that, there's some really good coverage on this, including Ars Technica has been doing fantastic coverage. Kyle Orland from Ars Technica covered this. Highway Robot got Super Mario 64 and Portal running on an SNES. So worth checking out later. Anything else we want to say about that one?
Well, I wasn't actually around yet, so when you do the next one, maybe I'll have been around for that one, and we can get my input.
Are we that close in join dates?
I think so.
Probably.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, and one of the things that happened is the community expanded rapidly after this point because we started really getting a lot more traction. So the next event worth chatting about is AGDQ 2019, and this was MASHBot. Not SmashBot, that's something later. MASHBot, MASHBOT.
Okay, so this is, before we talk about what MASHBot actually did, I have to tell the story of how we got MASHBot to MAGFest and then GDQ. So the guy who made MASHBot, his name is Funkmaster, and he lives in Canada, which is it the Quebec province, I think?
Yeah. Let's just dox him. Let's tell him everybody where he lives.
I'm going to be a little vague here, just for good reason. And I'm out of West Michigan. So I thought, it would make a lot of sense if I drove east to GDQ through Canada, picked up Funkmaster, and then drove south to GDQ. The problem is there are no highways north-south through Pennsylvania. So after I got Funkmaster, we started driving south, and it was like 25, 30 miles an hour, zigzagging through cities the whole way. And that was quite the adventure. The other thing was fun. This was the height of the Trump-Russia scandal era. And I asked Funkmaster what his name was in case the border guard asked. And he said something like, I don't remember the exact name, but like Ivan Petrov. And I was like, let's just go with Funkmaster. I think that'll work more okay for the border guard.
Okay, we only have 15 minutes left, so I got to get through this quick. This was the first time we physically stabbed a device. Well, technically we had used dynamite to stab a controller, but we poked a Nintendo DS screen and played Super Scribblenauts and had the audience in Twitch type in Twitch chat and vote for what they wanted to see. And crashed Twitch. Bad. Not the only time we crashed Twitch chat. Our record for that...
Didn't we consume 6% of all Twitch chat traffic at one point?
It was double digits.
Okay.
They were weirdly not happy with that. I don't understand
why. They were really not happy.
Build a better system.
This is a quick plug. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, come to discord.gg/TASBot. I don't mind if you ignore me for a second to look on your phones. Discord.gg/TASBot. Come there. I will tell you how we pushed full video frames through, specifically with the help of the Moss3212 and a bunch of other folks. We pushed full video frames through Twitch chat by doing Unicode encoding in a specific channel at a data rate that was so high that we consumed a double-digit percentage of all worldwide Twitch chat traffic in one channel. And they never actually talked to me officially, but I did have a chat later, and they said, yeah, don't do that again. Anyway.
So we did it 17 more times. It was just fine.
Anyway, but we definitely caused Twitch chat to be very, very bursty and act very strange. So at MAGFest, really fast, because I want to get onto other things, we physically pushed a plotter device on the screen that moved around and drew on the screen, and we had the audience vote about how to solve different Scribblenauts puzzles, I guess. It was a ton of fun. It was terrifying. We were still making adjustments to the bot as we were walking up onto stage. Game's done quick.
We had like multiple last-minute runs to the local computer store to get fresh motors. And
Oh,
stuff.
gosh.
We were literally compiling the run on the steps of the stage.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you read the wiki, I added some special notes about how we kind of gamed Twitch chat because we actually didn't have runs for some of the options, but we knew that the other ones were funny enough people would pick them. And also that one time where we only had really one run written out, so we just made all 4 options on the poll that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody noticed that, though. That just totally flew under the radar.
No one seemed to care about that. I'm not proud of this. This was a low point in a different way because AGDQ 2019, we were just not ready. We were not prepared. And Taters, to his credit, has been the person like, hey, you got to be ready, man. You got to be on top of this stuff.
It's funny, he made a series of bad decisions and then hired me. And he continues to keep screwing up. It's fantastic.
So the next time when we did AGDQ 2020, I came into the TASBot team around the 2018. I've been speedrunning since 2016, doing a lot of Pokemon Yellow speedruns. And I met them at 2018. I was doing some code golf on my TI-83 calculator, which from TI-783 you might have expected already.
It goes well.
It goes quite well with the name. So I met these guys, and they were like, oh, you're writing code on your calculator? I think you'll fit in well here.
They were so right.
Yeah, they were very right. And so for 2020, I had started working with a couple of people, namely Extremes, GIFVEX, Enterpinter, Casual Poke Player, a lot of people from the Pokemon speedrunning scene, and we created a new pipeline for verifying Game Boy and Game Boy Color runs using Game Boy Interface. So if you're familiar, Game Boy Interface is a homebrew for the Game Boy player on the GameCube, and it usually is used just to make the video look a lot cleaner than the original disc did, or replace the original disc if you don't have one. You can just use the brick with the homebrew, and then you don't have to worry about finding the original Game Boy player disc. But Game Boy Interface also has the ability to read a series of inputs like a player piano or like what we did for the other TASBot runs off of an SD card. And so it can essentially use the GameCube itself as a replay device for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. And anybody can go do this at home. We have documentation of how to on runs.tas.bot. We have like pre-compiled GBI folders that you can just download for individual games, and some of them will just work. Some of them you need other equipment for. But point is, for AGDQ 2020, we had a whole new layer of stability because of this GBI system. So we ran Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Bros. 2. Those were mostly stable because we had done NES stuff before. And then we did this new Pokemon Blue No Save Corruption run. And that one, you can literally hit a button, do it 1,000 times in a row, and it will work the same way every time.
Yeah,
so,
very reliable.
Very reliable. And yeah, thank you very much to Extremes for all that. And that was a very successful, I think we raised $250,000 just to show the bonus run.
Yeah.
For the Prevent Cancer Foundation at that event.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. We've got to move on quickly, but let's jump ahead, and then I'm going to jump back. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh man, I got to talk about Celestial Berries very fast. This was Uni. It was very, very important part of this. Fish, Keely, TGH was involved. Bye-bye, Kevin. Actually, Kevin blocks Kevin. This is a very famous one, but there is a slight bit of challenge here as well. This was never actually published on TAS Videos until a lot of complicated things happened, and we're still working on getting more of the Celeste runs on TAS Videos, but this was kind of a fraught time in TAS Videos admin history, and a lot of things kind of went sideways. But nevertheless, Celeste was an amazing demonstration of no ace, just this is what you can do with a tool-assisted speedrun on a beloved game. I cannot take credit for this. Uni and the whole crew that did this are the ones that are very much need to be credited. I'm going to jump ahead and then we're going to jump back. European Speedrunner Assembly, summer 2023. We showed off SmashBot. Now this is ESA. This isn't Games Done Quick. This isn't Europe. We showed off SmashBot. I'm going to go back up here a little bit.
Not to be confused with MashBot. This one has an extra S.
Yes, this one has a different S. So this
we really should become more inventive with naming things.
We're nerds. We're not wordsmiths.
I have to credit Alt F4 and also folks like Onosaurus and Grav was involved, Extrums was involved to an extent. Oh gosh, who else? Goodness, there were so many people that were working on this.
There's mainly, I can't remember the name either, but there's a whole library of GameCube exploits which are necessary for booting homebrew. And if you look those up, all the people involved with those and GBI are mainly the same code. Alt F4, did you say that?
Yeah.
Alt F4 is heavily involved in that stuff. So.
Yeah. So I want to talk very briefly about this. This was the first time the second time technically. This is the first really major time we had incorporated artificial intelligence. You see, TASBot is actually more like a player piano. You can think of it in the context of music as a composer or an arranger sitting down and making a piece of music that takes a long time, months sometimes, and then plays it back all at once on a player piano that's just taking a scroll of paper, just a piano roll, and playing back one note after another from the beginning of the song to the end. TASBot is doing the same thing, but one button press from the beginning of the game until the end. In this case, we were using artificial intelligence to basically do everything. We start the game, we trigger an arbitrary code execution because, of course. That then allowed us to use the second memory port with a memory adapter that a bunch of folks worked on to put together based on Slippy and a bunch of other stuff. There's so many people to credit here, I can't even get it all. We sent the location of the opponent over that to the computer that was running a script that connected to TASBot, that then analyzed where the opponent was and responded appropriately, and then sent the buttons back through TASBot to the controller ports to then kick the player's butt consistently. We did finally have one person who managed to take TASBot and MashBot out, or SmashBot out.
Yeah, I've managed to take a life off. Usually it only happens if there's like some sort of delay in the system. Like if you're getting more than a frame or two of delay, it will be behind on keeping up with you. So there's a lot of technical reasons why that could happen. And,
yeah. We also showed this at MAGFest. So anyone who is on the West Coast, MAGFest is an amazing event. Help make it as big as this one, especially since this one's selling out. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
We also showed it at Long Island Retro in Long Island.
I wish I had more time, but I do not. I have to talk about one more run. And that run is Triforce %.
I think they've heard of it.
I think they've heard of it, and none other than Soren himself is right here. I cannot say enough things about this run in 4 minutes, but that's how much time I've got left, so here goes. Triforce % was Soren's baby. I don't know how many hours you put in on this. I would believe 1,000. Minimum. Triforce % represents the biggest thing that has ever been shown under the TASBot banner and may never be exceeded. If you have not seen Triforce %, I will not be upset if you exit the room at this time because I'm about to spoil the plot.
Yeah, you absolutely should if you have not seen it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds.
Quickly though, come
It's
on,
okay.
we've only got a few minutes. Let's go, let's go.
Before you walk out, come to the autograph session in about 45 minutes. Come to the autograph session down where you got your badge. Go to the autograph sessions, and I'll be able to answer questions later.
Yeah.
So if you are leaving now, so you don't want to get spoiled for Triforce %, that's where you'll find me next to ask questions.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Somebody set up a banner 10 minutes in the back. It's all good.
He's never been good with time.
And for anybody else who's interested too, for any Linus Tech Tips fans out there, we were at LTX in Vancouver last year, and we, under the radar, have been showing at some of these in-person events a TAS of the Shrek GBA video cartridge, where we execute a credits warp by selecting the credits.
It is revolutionary technology.
But we've
7 years worth of work went into this.
We've never shown it on YouTube apart from like a single raw encode because it gets copyright struck every time.
Yeah, it would. It would. For those that are leaving, don't worry. You're not going to miss too much. We're only going to be talking about this one last run, but we're going to be talking about it a little longer, thankfully. I'm glad I have a couple more minutes. I thought I had to be done exactly at 45 till after. This run deserves the bulk of the time for one very good reason. It's possible to do something that's technologically advanced. It's possible to do something that's a fun story. It's possible to do something that's auditorily or musically compelling. But to have all of those elements come together in one event at a time when the world was hurting was monumental. And for those that are here, you've already seen it or don't mind being spoiled. So I'm not going to be hiding anything here. Triforce Percent starts on the premise of just showing beta content. When we showed it, we called it Ocarina of Time Beta Showcase because that's what we were doing. The original cartridge shipped with so many interesting things left on the cartridge that they just never removed before they shipped. Everything from the Great Beta Fairy and a giant purple rupee and all these other fun little elements that are scattered throughout, models of Kokiri that weren't used. And we start off the story with what seems like it's something innocuous. Okay, well, we want to show you these elements that are on the cartridge and they're locked, so we need to do an arbitrary code execution to gain access to those. So we had a human runner, since there's randomness aspects that make it very difficult to do a console verification on a Nintendo 64 game, or most Nintendo 64 games. We had a human runner in the form of Save State, also known as Savey. And Save State walked through playing the game, doing some very, very difficult maneuvers to try to point Link in the right direction and get angles just right. If you want to know the breakdown of how that happened, I gave a full talk on that at May Contain Hackers. May Contain Hackers in the Netherlands. I gave it in a tent on Scoutlands. I have that on my YouTube channel. But it's the background of how that portion of the Triforce Percent was done. It's really complicated. I'm not going to try to explain it here. But what it resulted in is we got Link to glitch in various different ways. We connected TASBot to controller port 1 after Save State set the game up in the right way, glitched Link out in all kinds of crazy ways. And then a little green line appeared in the corner of the screen just to indicate, yes, we've successfully bootstrapped the very first part. We ran a series of other commands that sent data over controller ports 2, 3, and 4, while Save State was free to take back over the game, and walked through the house, went through a house and out again, and opened and closed the pause menu just to get some leftover corruption cleared out. From that moment on, we were at a place where we were constantly sending data over controller ports 2, 3, and 4. And it allowed us to expose some amazing, amazing stuff. All right.
15.
Yeah. I don't even know how to say all this in even 15 minutes. I'm going to try to do it in 5. But we used the power of technology to tell a story. And that story was a meaningful completion to all of the things that the original Ocarina of Time team was never able to do. We didn't just show beta elements. We completed an entire story that was the contribution of not only Soren in the form of director, but also a large number of dialogue writers, musicians, composers, 3D modelers, all coming together to create a story that we walked through. For those who have seen it, it was bringing all of the components of wisdom, power, strength, wisdom, strength, and courage all into one, so that Link's heart was in balance. which allowed him to gain access to the Triforce room ultimately. And all of those elements, like the Triforce room logo that was in the real game, we recreated the whole Triforce scene. Soren really did that, to pull something that was in an early video game commercial for the game that never made it into the final game. We completed what the authors were never able to do. But we did one more thing that was just too hard for some people to comprehend. We saw the future. We saw an island that would not be out of place in Tears of the Kingdom. We saw a Link with his modern Breath of the Wild outfit in blue, in a cell shading that was never seen on the original Nintendo 64, with sound effects. If you listen carefully, the right sound effects are there. All of the physics of the hair, everything carefully put together, and at most times running at full frame rate because of careful optimizations by Soren and the team. It was incredible, but the impact it had wasn't just that. It was Zelda appearing, Zelda addressing the audience, and in that moment of everyone being exhausted from a pandemic, inviting people in chat around the world to type "here together." And that simple phrase of being able to type "here together" on screen, seeing your own names, seeing people's names around the world coming together so fast that Twitch could not keep up, would show many, many names, and then the sky would empty because Twitch just stopped working. All of this over the course of a wonderful piece of music orchestrated by Soren. It was incredibly moving. I was in the room, I looked back, and I saw people crying. I was emotionally overwhelmed. I'd never been able to be part of something quite that moving. And at the end of the day, the impact of that run was immense. Not just for the closure of that game of Ocarina of Time, but also because the Triforce Percent run helped raise over $228,000 for Doctors Without Borders in 1 hour. So closing out, if you want to be part of whatever we do next, come on over to discord.gg/TASBot. Come get involved. You too can be a part of something bigger than yourself. We need skills from all walks of life. It doesn't matter if you don't think that you have any relevant skills. There were a lot of people that contributed to the Triforce Percent run that felt that way and ultimately ended up helping out. My own son helped out with the credits.
That's really very important, too. I mean, you two can be just dumb and aloof on stage like me. I met him in a hot tub.
It's true.
And we talked about Linux for a bit, and now here I am.
And yes, this is Linux.
And we truly need people from all walks of life with all sorts of skill sets. It's a blend. It's a melting pot of skill sets. If there's only one thing that comes from this, it's that there are a huge community of people behind all of us that go into what you're seeing on stage. And you all can be part of that.
We have to wrap it up, but thank you so much to Taters, TyKevin83, I'm Dwango AC. You can catch us at discord.gg/TASBot, and here's to another 10 years.